At the roof of the world, where the sky thins into space, a single breath can feel like a lifetime. In May of 1996, Mount Everest stood calm and silver beneath the sun, its beauty hiding the danger that had taken so many before. This was the season when two teams would chase the summit, and the mountain would decide who would return. Rob Hall, a seasoned New Zealander and leader of adventure consultants, believed in precision, teamwork, and care. He'd already guided dozens of climbers to the top of the world. His voice carried the authority of a man who knew every contour of the mountain. Scott Fischer, the American head of Mountain Madness, was his counterpart. Bold, charismatic, and driven by pure energy. Both men respected each other, both were competitors, and both led groups of climbers who had mortgaged homes, careers, and time with family just to take those last few steps to the highest point on Earth. Base camp buzzed with life. Hundreds of tents, oxygen tanks stacked like silver barrels, prayer flags snapping in the cold wind. The smell of yak butter lamps mixed with diesel from the generators. Doctors checked blood oxygen levels. Guides whispered about storms that might come early this year. Yet hope outweighed fear. Every climber believed, somehow, that preparation would be enough. The first acclimatization climb began under a perfect sky. The icefall crackled like glass underfoot. Each ladder crossing was a gamble. One misplaced boot and the crevasse swallowed you whole. They moved in silence except for the jingle of carabiners and the low roar of avalanches far away. At Camp 2, at nearly 21,000 feet, the air thinned and laughter slowed. Every step above this line required willpower alone. Rob Hall moved among his team, calm and composed. He told them stories about past summits, keeping spirits high. Scott Fischer pushed his climbers to trust their strength. "We didn't come this far to stop halfway," he'd say with that half-smile people remembered long after he was gone. From Camp 3 to Camp 4, the climb became a negotiation with the body itself. Sleep vanished. Food lost its taste. Even melting snow for water became a ritual of patience. Radio static carried forecasts that shifted by the hour, pressure dropping, wind rising, a system building far to the south. But every Everest veteran knew, the mountain was never truly safe. They would go anyway. By May 9th, 1996, both teams were in position. More than 30 climbers waited at the South Col, the final camp before the summit, an ocean of tents flapping in hurricane winds. Bottled oxygen hissed in the cold night. Headlamps flickered like stars against the endless black. Rob Hall radioed his team, "We go for the summit at midnight." Scott Fischer's group echoed the same plan. No one could have known that two parallel lines of climbers, winding up the same face of the same mountain, were walking straight into one of the worst disasters in Everest's history. Midnight, May 10th, 1996. A trail of headlamps flickered upward from the South Col, a river of tiny lights winding toward the sky. 30 climbers stepped into the death zone, where the air holds barely one-third the oxygen of sea level, and even thought becomes heavy. Each breath felt like a bargain with the mountain. Frost clung to eyelashes. Oxygen masks hissed with every exhale. The stars above were diamond bright, but every step below was treacherous. Patches of ice, buried ropes, and the long drop into darkness. Wind tore at the ridge. It sounded like the growl of something alive. Rob Hall's team moved slowly but steadily. He checked on each climber, adjusting oxygen valves, tightening harnesses. Farther back, Scott Fischer urged his team forward, but the altitude was already working against him. He'd been unwell for days. Exhaustion, dehydration, the toll of leading too many climbs without rest. Still, he refused to turn back. As dawn crept over the Himalayas, the first colors of sunlight spilled across the peaks. Rose, then gold, then white so bright it hurt the eyes. For a moment, the mountain seemed peaceful, almost kind. But that illusion didn't last long. Bottlenecks formed below the Hillary Step, a narrow rock wall just short of the summit. Too many climbers, not enough fixed ropes. Minutes stretched into hours as people waited their turn in air so thin it stripped the mind of reason. The summit was right there, less than 100 meters above. But delay in the death zone is the most dangerous currency. By early afternoon, most of the climbers had reached the top. Photographs were taken, flags raised, tears frozen on cheeks. For many, it was the greatest moment of their lives. Yet every guide knew, the summit is only halfway. and by the time they began their descent, clouds were already massing on the horizon. Far below, at base camp, meteorologists saw the storm forming, a massive system sweeping north from the Bay of Bengal. They radioed warnings, but at that altitude, signals broke apart into static. On the ridge, the first flakes of snow began to fall. By 3 p.m., visibility dropped to 0. Wind screamed at 70 miles per hour, flinging ice like shards of glass. Ropes disappeared under snow. Climbers could no longer see their own boots. Some lost track of the trail entirely. Those who turned back early reached safety by nightfall. Those who stayed longer were swallowed by the storm. Rob Hall remained near the south summit with a client who had collapsed, refusing to abandon him. Scott Fischer, descending far below, grew weaker with every step. Guides shouted into radios, but the wind devoured their voices. Somewhere high above the world, among lightning, snow, and silence, the line between courage and tragedy began to blur. By dusk, Everest had turned into a white void. Wind howled across the South Col like the roar of a living thing, relentless, vengeful. Snow erased all sense of direction. The climbers were no longer ascending or descending, they were simply lost. Those still above 8,000 meters fought to stay upright. Their oxygen canisters froze. Headlamps flickered and died in the storm's fury. One climber screamed for help, but the sound vanished instantly into the wind. Rob Hall crouched beside his client, Doug Hansen, barely conscious. The two men were stranded just below the south summit, 28,700 feet above the earth. The radio crackled with the voice of Hall's team at base camp. "Rob, you must descend." But Rob's voice came back through static. "Doug's gone. I can't leave him." His words carried a calm that was more chilling than fear itself. Meanwhile, farther down, Scott Fischer's group descended in chaos. Fischer's strength had drained away entirely. He sat down in the snow, mumbling, refusing to move. His guide, Anatoly Bukreev, made the agonizing decision to leave him, to descend, regroup, and return with help. It was a gamble between one life and many. At Camp 4, the tents shook like paper. Inside, surviving climbers huddled together, frostbitten, delirious, whispering prayers through cracked lips. Oxygen ran low. The storm screamed without pause. No one knew who was still alive above them. Night on Everest is absolute. There are no sounds but wind and breath, and sometimes not even breath. That night, it became a graveyard of movement. Bukreev, against all odds, went back out into the storm, alone, without oxygen, guided only by instinct and a small flashlight. He crawled through snowdrifts that buried tents, searching for anyone still alive. One by one, he found climbers barely breathing, and dragged them, half frozen, back to camp. Each rescue was a miracle written in ice. Hours passed. Then dawn broke, cold and merciless. The mountain revealed what the night had taken. Bodies lay scattered along the trail, still roped, still facing upward, as if still climbing in their final dream. At 28,000 feet, a faint voice came through the radio. Rob Hall was alive. He'd survived the night, but frostbite had taken his hands, and he could no longer move. He spoke to his wife, Jan, in New Zealand via satellite phone. "Sleep well, my sweetheart. Please don't worry too much." It was his final call. By the time rescuers reached that altitude, the wind had already buried him. His body remains on the mountain to this day, a silent monument to the cost of devotion. The 1996 Everest disaster claimed 8 lives, one of the deadliest days in mountaineering history. But what survived was something beyond tragedy, a testament to endurance, loyalty, and the thin, fragile line between human will and nature's wrath. When the storm finally broke, silence fell over the mountain, not peace, but a hollow quiet. The survivors crawled from their tents like ghosts emerging from a dream that refused to end. The wind had sculpted the snow into smooth, white dunes, hiding the faces of friends who'd been there only hours before. Bukreev stood at the edge of the camp, frost clinging to his beard, eyes hollow. He'd saved 3 lives through sheer will, yet guilt followed him down every step. Every survivor felt that same weight. Why me? Why not them? Helicopters struggled against thin air to reach Camp 2. The wind still screamed through the ridges, tossing the machines like toys. But one by one, the survivors were lifted off the mountain, wrapped in silver blankets, eyes glazed, hands blackened with frostbite. Some were half-conscious, whispering names that the rescuers didn't recognize. By the time they reached base camp, the world already knew. News crews swarmed the Khumbu Valley. Satellite reports had turned tragedy into headline. Everest claims 8 in deadliest storm. Photos of Hall and Fischer circled the globe, smiling faces now framed by snow and loss. Back home, families waited by telephones that never rang. Jan Arnold, Rob Hall's wife, carried their unborn daughter as she listened to her husband's final words replayed on the radio. Fischer's friends in Seattle built a small shrine, a pile of climbing ropes and prayer flags, for the man who had once called Everest his cathedral. But on the mountain, life continued. Sherpas carried loads, fixed ropes, whispered mantras. To them, death on Everest wasn't rare. It was part of the pact every climber made with the sky. For months, the survivors spoke little. Beck Weathers, left for dead twice, returned home with his hands and nose lost to frostbite, but his spirit somehow intact. He later said, "I saw my own death up there, and I chose to live." Anatoly Bukreev was hailed as a hero by some, criticized by others. He defended his decisions with quiet conviction that in the death zone, heroism is never clean, never certain. He returned to climb again, and in 1997, a year later, he too was taken by an avalanche on Annapurna, as if the mountains themselves had called him home. Years passed. Books were written, Into Thin Air, The Climb, each a reflection, each a memory painted from a different angle. And yet, beyond the words and debates, the truth remained frozen in time. 8 climbers went up. 8 did not come back. But the story didn't end in loss. It became a mirror for the human spirit. How far we'll go, how much we'll risk, to touch something higher than ourselves. For some, Everest is the ultimate challenge. For others, it's a warning that the mountain doesn't care about glory, ambition, or records. It only tests the heart that dares to climb it. Even today, when climbers pass the South Col, they still see Rob Hall's body, preserved by the cold, facing toward the summit. They bow their heads, not in fear, but in respect. Because the story of 1996 is more than a tragedy. It's a lesson written in ice and wind. That courage can be fatal. That survival can demand more than strength. And that sometimes, reaching the top is not victory, coming home is. The death zone doesn't forgive mistakes, but it reveals truth. And high above the clouds, where air is thin and time feels infinite, the voices of those who fell still whisper through the wind. We were here. We tried. We climbed.